All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Power Hour. Without Asa, unfortunately, Asa is having major surgery on his rectum, but we have some replacements here tonight. Well, actually, not replacements. We have Han as always, and Han, always good to see you.
Good evening, Batch. Good to see you.
We have Mikaela Hondros-McCarthy, the hyphen, here with us. And tonight, this has been something that these guys have wanted to talk about for a long time. I think it's one of the most fascinating stories in the world. I think that's got a lot of potential to connect to some other things, but which we'll get to at the very end. But without further ado, that's a French word for something.
Adieu.
See you later.
Bid farewell.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the friggin' Epstein thing. This thing is just nuts. This is like real Pizzagate. So. I don't know, man. I'm a neophyte with this stuff, so I don't know, just start from the beginning, just give a recap and just go nuts, because I think this is down the road. This is going to be one of the longer things go on. This is going to become bigger.
I hope so. I think the big thing has been how there has been very little media attention, mainstream media attention to it.
Well, I'm shocked by that because the mainstream media, they're in search of the truth, aren't they, Bat?
Right. But we
The
come
truth
at
is out
it.
there.
We come at it like you probably watch a lot of different things than I do, and we're both not getting a lot of coverage from the news outlets that we watch at all. So it's on both sides. This is not a partisan thing.
It's hard to find information on this thing that's seemingly unbiased and not scrubbed.
Well, you would think that trafficking young girls for rich, powerful, elite people would be a nonpartisan thing that a lot of people would be interested in.
Kind of like something everyone could get behind and say,
Yeah.
probably not good.
It could unite people.
Yeah,
it could
probably.
really, on both sides.
Both sides of the aisle should be
Yeah.
vehemently opposed
You
to
could
such
agree.
things.
So-
you could agree on this.
So my whole thing with this is the first time I heard about this, I'm like, there is absolutely no way we're ever going to know anything, because everybody involved are the same people and they will all bury this, because the media is basically owned by the rich and powerful. So the rich and powerful, when they do things like, this, they just cover it all up. But the more you hear, I don't know, just take me
Well,
I don't even know where to start.
Well, back at the beginning, right?
Back at
I
the
think,
beginning,
you know what I think
okay.
is truly fascinating is the origin story of this. And correct me if I'm wrong, because we both know lots of different pieces of this, I think. But the reason that this got so much attention in the first place was because of Trump's labor secretary pick was Acosta, right?
Yep.
And he was the one
Is it Alex
that-
Acosta?
Acosta, I just talked to her.
I think it was Alec or Alex, maybe. I can't.
yeah, Alex Acosta maybe. And
Not Jim.
And so everyone was paying really close attention to Trump's cabinet picks, and he was labor secretary. And the reason he got a lot of flack was because he only sentenced, and this was in West Palm Beach County or whatever, but he only sentenced Epstein to a very, very, very lenient jail time where he got to leave. He got, he really wasn't sentenced to hard time at all for these egregious crimes that he was committing. So that's why I think the Epstein case got a lot of attention in the first place, was because of Trump's labor secretary pick.
And let's face it, we all have short attention spans, so you could kind of let any prisoner out these days and it would probably fly under the radar. It might be, people might have their panties in a bunch for a day or two, but after that, it kind of just goes away.
But I mean, when this thing broke, it's
When you say this thing broke, what do you mean? What portion of the program? Because there's so many different spots here.
I don't even know. It's
When he finally got popped on sex trafficking
Yeah,
charges,
I mean,
and it was
that-
pretty clear they were going to put him in jail, right before he died.
well, we all know. I guess way before he died.
his ties to certain people.
Yeah, it's. Well, I guess even how did nobody know that this stuff was even? The rumors were out
People
there.
knew.
How did this guy with no skills become a multi-billionaire with dirt on everybody who's powerful around the world?
What happened to
Maybe
the
not
tapes?
everybody. Okay, little exaggeration.
No, but
Where are
it's
the
true. Where are
tapes?
the tapes? They seized all those trash bags.
That's
Tapes.
for Glashane to answer, right?
You know,
All
like
right, so you're saying that the first time any of this came to light was 2016.
well, no,
The
I
first
think he was
time it was
first.
in the media. The first time.
So he's been in the media quite a bit. Actually.
Yeah, I think like 2012 he had like his first like there was like a, but like I don't think it got really.
First arrest, you mean?
Yeah, I don't think it got really like I think during the Trump, well, from what I remember, the reason I was like really like turned on to this whole thing was when Labor Secretary Acosta was picked, and then there's like, oh, there's like a rabbit hole that you could kind of like get down in, and it was like the Epstein stuff, and then
So-
he has all these ties, and it became like a political thing because he had ties to Bill Clinton, and
But did that all come out in 2000?
Amongst others, yeah.
No, I think that was like I think that was like 2016, 2017 when
All right. See, that's a problem. So a bunch of stuff happened.
yeah.
It was kind of out there, but nobody made a big deal out of it until it was convenient. So it got buried.
Yeah, it became a political,
Yeah.
weapon, I think, on both sides. I mean, but you don't really see a lot of, I think you kind of see it more on like Democrat side, like the ties to Democrats.
No way.
I do.
That shocks
Whoa.
me.
Definitely had ties to Trump, but like Ghislaine Maxwell, like so she's the daughter of
Robert
Maxwell, who owned the Daily Mirror, which is like kind of like the Daily Wire, like over in Great Britain. So like she
Also
was part of-
MTV.
yeah, and her father,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah,
51% ownership at MTV, my friend.
Wow.
and
Amongst other things.
it's so yeah, and that
He's
brings
building, he's building
it's
a
a
media
conglomerate.
empire.
It's a conglomerate for
You
sure.
know who his rival was? Rupert Murdoch.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And guess how he died?
He was suicided as well.
Fell off a boat, named Lady Ghislaine
That's his
after
yacht.
his daughter.
Oh, hang on. Let's continue with the tie-in. When he died, guess who inherits his $50 million yacht, Lady Glashane, or whatever we want to call it? How do you say it?
Ghislaine. I've heard it pronounced Ghislaine.
Guessing his daughter.
Rupert Murdoch's third ex-wife.
Oh.
Shoot, I did not know this.
There you go.
How?
Yeah, I don't know.
How?
You know, these people, they all run in circles, Batch.
And he was purported to be a spy for a Mossad spy.
Mossad agent.
Yeah, and he was buried with like highest honors, like
Yeah.
in
Wait, who
in
was?
Israel. Her dad.
Her dad.
father.
Her dad was the real deal.
Her dad was like
Her dad also, allegedly, is the guy who was able to globally round up organized crime and bring them together into a kind of a singular force. Does that make sense?
I did not know this.
It's actually not a bad idea.
Right. So you got all these. So you're going to have all these connections.
It's very Joe
Eastern
Kennedy
Europe. Yeah.
It's a tangled. It is
Yeah.
a tangled.
And guess what other country's involved? You'll never guess. Asa should be here for this. Ukraine, of course, right?
Oh well, yeah.
So-
I do that. That I do.
But actually, so her father, actually, I believe his parents and siblings were killed by the Nazis.
Mm-hmm. He had a
So
very tough.
He ended up fighting the Nazis. He joined British military, I believe. So he's an interesting character. But
Yeah.
Well, what about Epstein? Like, where did he emerge from? Which sewer did he crawl out of?
well, he kind of hit the map at the
That school,
the Barton
right?
School, right? And here's another small world connection: is Bill Barr, who's a two-time attorney general. His father actually is the one who hired Epstein to work at this Barton School, and Epstein really had no qualifications to teach, but he was hired nonetheless.
And this is a
And,
powerful school where you have powerful connections. So you're teaching
Yeah.
kids with very powerful parents.
Yeah,
And he was a very
Epstein was a
charismatic.
teacher.
yeah. Hey, Batch, take a stab in the dark at how he loses this job. Just take a shot.
I'm
And,
gonna
what-
go with
What?
he might have had an affair with a student.
Well, yeah, we have. Well, he was partying with the younger student crowd.
Wasn't it an all
apparently.
boys? Was it all boys school?
It was supposed to
maybe
be. Allegedly, it was an all girls school, but I think that
Oh,
was
sorry.
incorrect.
Wait, is that where he learned to groom?
Perhaps, I don't know. But so he through complaints of other staff members and parents of students at the school, he lost his job at the Barton School.
And then
Interesting.
gets hired at
And
Bear
also,
Stearns.
you want to hear another weird one? Was that Bill Barton's father wrote this bizarre space book about sex slavery and stuff
What?
like that. Yeah, it's a little dark. So strange things, bud.
There are dark undertones. Like, this is another conspiracy corner
But where was he before that, though?
tangent. Didn't he grow up in like a pretty like relatively like Jewish I think just like regular.
So where did he go from like being just a teacher, to being kind of in charge of the sex fund for powerful people?
Well, he got hired at Bear Stearns, and I honestly think he was just such a charismatic sort of like charmer type that like that's what he got his like jollies from, like just kind of like conning people into trusting him. And then he got like fired from Bear Stearns.
Yeah.
And
Barr's father also, he was in the Office of Strategic Services, which is kind of like the precursor to the CIA.
Oh, it goes back that far.
Well, you start to see the intelligence connections kick in, and then he's recruited
Sure.
by Alan Greenberg of Bear Stearns.
right.
So Greenberg brings Epstein. So after Epstein leaves Barton School, Alan Greenberg brings him into Bear Stearns.
Dude, this is like
After a
The
short period of
connection.
time, Greenberg runs Bear Stearns, so he becomes the captain of the ship.
oh, for fuck's sake! I
And
need a beer for this.
so what happens is Epstein gets access to service some high-end clients.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Lex
he-
Wexner being one of them.
this is prior.
All right,
it
but
is?
So
this
it's
kind of
probably
makes sense
sad.
because when you look at a lot of what some of these people in these big Bear Stearns places, whatever, like part of their job is just like they hire people just to take them out.
You do
Yeah,
hire
we've
people.
done-
We hire people for connections, right?
Right, like
too, like
connections
because
to
you're
party
bringing
people.
money in to manage money. Like if you know someone and they're going to invest with someone.
Because let's face it, I mean, it's a slimy world, right? Like if you're doing this investment stuff, it's slimy.
Cut it out, guy.
Well, no, but you know what it is. Like it's
Well, I think you have very talented.
It can be.
Yeah, you
Right,
have very
no, there's a
talented
very-
people that
yes.
can manage portfolios and really do really great work for earning
Yeah,
money for
but it's-
people. But then you also have the sales people that
Right.
you really hire these people for their connections to
right. They're like
money.
the people that sell pharmaceuticals. Like they look good. They're not that smart, and they know how to make people have fun.
and
Did I just describe
then
a whole
also-
class of people? Like,
no, but then also
I mean,
like
their
how to
job
blackmail
is
them
to-
afterwards.
you what?
How to blackmail them afterwards.
Well, yeah,
also.
like their job, like back in the day before they reformed, what the hell's that? Reformed.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff like what do you call them? Pharmaceutical reps would go in and they'd buy people lunch.
Mhm.
They'd take them out for drinks, and then they'd sell them their little drugs. Like it was just a little. You were
Well,
basically
the
like
trips,
a,
you know, this is like a kind of a funny
you
story.
were a cigarette
Yeah.
girl, basically.
Like negotiating with doctors for a cut. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean that's all it was. And that's the same thing that every stock house, whatever you call it, brokerage firm, had these people.
Yeah. Well, it's
Well, yeah.
relationship building, right? Like we had to do this like when I was doing like financial consulting, we had to do this like it was like forensic accounting almost, where like, it was looking at expense reports of these sales reps for like pharmaceutical and like all the trips that they would take doctors on and like these crazy trips. Like the craziest thing I ever saw on like an expense was like they paid for like a midget to like be with them all night and like
What direction is this show
Can we,
going?
can we say that anymore? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to
a
say
short person.
no, little person.
A little
A short
person.
person's like somebody over.
Well, that's what it
between
said on the
like
bill.
5'1"
That's
and
what they said on the bill.
5'10",
That's what they said on the bill.
5'8" and below.
That's what the bill said. But it's like they paid for this crazy stuff, and it
You
was
were,
like all
wait, you were
expensive.
so
Yeah.
woke, and you said midget.
I thought that was like a
No, you can't say that anymore.
okay. Well, that's what the bill. That's what the
You have
bill
to
said it
apologize.
on
You
the
have to
bill.
apologize.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think that's very
Liberals are
offensive.
so fast to just apologize. Like she meant no harm whatsoever.
No, but it is a. I guess it is offensive.
You know
too.
what? My reaction really dwarfs your offense.
You know what? It is not. It is not a good. It's probably not a good word. I'm sorry. The
Where are we?
Yeah.
Really shorten up this segment, huh?
yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just yeah. It was a little
You
short.
did have a shock. You
It
did
was-
have a shocked look on your
I
face.
did. I can't believe
I
you
did
said.
not know.
I can't believe you said
feel like-
midget.
Clutched by pearl from.
It was a little short-sighted of me to come after you about that.
Anyway, yeah. Let's,
So we
What's
get,
that?
by the way, on this Bear Stearns thing. So
Yeah.
finally, Epstein is
Wait, this is all starting to make sense to me finally.
right. So Epstein actually, when he's working for Bear Stearns, he ends up leaving because there is an SEC investigation into insider trading launched as far as Epstein is concerned, working with Seagram's is the company.
Gold wine coolers.
Yeah. So now here's where we're going to kind of tie in again to intelligence, right?
Okay.
So the legal counsel for Bear Stearns during this time with Epstein is Bill Casey.
Oh,
You know Bill
Jesus.
Casey?
Yeah. Wait,
So he's the CIA director under Reagan, right?
that's the one that got. Wait, did he die? Did he get shot? No, that was.
Dead or alive, I'm not sure, Batch. I'm gonna go with dead. If you're the CIA director in the 80s, actually, who knows?
No, but he had nothing. When Reagan got when they missed Reagan, when they tried to assassinate him, he had nothing. He wasn't.
He wasn't the Secret Service agent. He was the CIA director.
No, but
and he
it's
was the
not-
legal counsel.
You're thinking of Brady.
He was the legal counsel.
Yeah, I
for
know,
Bear
but I thought
Stearns.
somebody else got nicked. Or was he? Why do I? Was Casey
You know what?
part
I
of
don't
Iran
remember.
Contra?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Oh,
Anyway,
well, we're gonna get there too.
I know. Anyways, go ahead. Go
There's a
ahead.
lot to cover.
There's
All
a
right.
lot to cover.
So Bear Stearns, we get it. Casey was part of that.
Right. So you
SEC
have-
violations.
Yep. So this is when Epstein all of a sudden starts to kind of market his services as kind of like you were talking about a forensic
Yeah.
accountant or whatever. So he's offering his service basically like a financial bounty hunter, right? So are you a rich person? Someone
about this.
stole your funds, or Batch, maybe
He'll
you're a rich
find them.
person. Maybe you're a rich person and you want to shelter your funds or
Okay.
hide them. So somewhere along the line here, he develops.
He was a bounty hunter. Like if someone stole money
Yeah.
from someone,
Right.
he would go after.
So for a
the
fee,
fund.
I'll find out where your money went, right? So which begs the question of how does he have this information?
The power, but also how does
who
he
has access to
how does he have the
global
power?
financial information that he can actually kind of connect to?
So he's building his network of.
Yeah, well, you can see kind of like
This
where
is
things are
really
going.
interesting.
I mean, the thing,
different.
the amount of information he probably had on so many
Yeah.
people.
So everybody's coming to this guy because he's got connections. He's got connections to money. He's got inside information on inside trading. Nobody's ratting him out because he's got dirt on everybody.
Yeah.
So when does he start becoming?
I think at this point early in the game, I don't know if he had dirt. I don't know at what point here the dirt starts to pile up.
No, but he's like the fun guy, right? He's the guy that's around.
Well, you had the women coming out and speaking out against him specifically. Like you had,
This was already
women-
happening at this point. Or
Yes.
This, okay.
well, no. I mean, this is after all of this
Yeah.
stuff.
So when he gets into this, he starts doing business with the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, which is called BCCI. You ever heard of them?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
That's what they're shut down now, right? But they were essentially the bank involved in Iran Contra.
Right.
So they were kind of like a lot of people might say, and we're not saying that this is absolutely for certain, but a front for the CIA for money laundering,
Is this the one that bought the airport? Like,
international transactions, stuff like that.
What?
didn't he buy an airport? Did he buy an airport that was
Epstein.
used by the
Oh,
CIA?
that's probably how they used to get the crack into LA, right?
Well, he buys an airline. Are you thinking of?
Wait, was that Contra?
No, the old Israeli.
Pretty much.
Was it the old Israeli airline?
No. So if we're gonna tie this in, right?
I know.
So there was during Iran Contra. Do you remember the Barry Seal story out of Oklahoma?
Vaguely, yeah.
Remember the movie American Made?
Yeah.
He's basically flying drugs from Central America up to the United States,
Yeah.
taking the cash, sending the cash. Doing a little
Teterboro
work-
Airport.
Doing a little work with the CIA to buy arms for the Contra. You know what I mean? That network. So there was I can't remember the name of the airline. It's like America something Airlines, and they were the ones doing all this transporting for all the stuff going in and out of. It was out of Arkansas actually, right? So Epstein will later buy that. Okay, so after Iran Contra, Epstein buys that airline, and you know where it ends up going? Up to Ohio with
Lex Wessner. That's where
right?
Lex Wessner.
So the Limited brings in this airline, and now all of a sudden, this airline that used to do Iran Contra between Central America and Arkansas, and who knows what they're shipping, whatever, right? But now all of a sudden, they're going back and forth to China. which opens a whole nother scandal. But
Yeah.
we're already
And Lex
going
Wessner Lex Wessner also owns like
Victoria's
Limited is Victoria's Secret. So he was
that
able.
guy's connected to this stuff too.
Lex
yeah,
Wessner, he was like.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were rumored to be like kind of like lover situation, the two of them.
All right, can I just say something? So, just as my friend Mary used to say, Tios, you and Asa doubted me that Cocaine Bear had any basis in reality.
I didn't watch. Did you watch that movie?
No, but I'm gonna. It's gonna be
Okay.
the best movie of all time.
We should all watch it. Actually,
We should. The real story is better than the fake story, by the way. The real story is amazing. But-
Truth is stranger than fiction. Is that what
Which
you're
is
trying
what
to
I'm
say?
saying. Like, this is amazing. This is
I mean, don't
amazing.
get
All
me
right.
started. Like
Keep going.
this is
All right.
an iceberg. It's just
So,
very.
This
big
mofo's involved with everything.
But there was a previous owner, I think it was like the Teterboro Airport, and it was like that he like purchased a whole airport, and it was like, anyway.
yeah. So anyway, on this BCCI, right? There ends up being this like congressional investigation into them. Here's what comes out of it. They're involved in sex trafficking minors, including prepubescent teens.
Jesus.
So nasty stuff, and allegedly this was for high-end clientele.
What year was this?
VIPs. I think this is the 80s.
Okay.
I forget. You know, I didn't keep track of my time frame, so I apologize for that.
No, that's fine.
But he would sort of like lure young women in with the pretense of like Victoria's Secret model stardom or whatever it is, because he had this connection to Lex Wessner, and he had this crazy compound like in Ohio. Like it was, so he would like bring people to like that compound. It was like a very.
If you were a young, beautiful woman that was interested in modeling, wouldn't you be suspicious if you ended up in Ohio?
But if you're from a country that like you don't have a lot of other options, and you have, or if like a lot of these girls were from across the bridge, you have West Palm Beach, and then you have like you go across the bridge and there's like a poverty stricken place where like and that's where like Ghislaine Maxwell would go and like kind of solicit high school girls, and like she would have like whole like.
Are we talking about Florida or Ohio, by the way?
Florida. Sorry, this is Palm Beach. But yeah, this is going like a little.
So, but if you think about it, right, Batch? Let's just say you're Epstein. Now, Epstein at some point is living at Wexner's house, right? He's living on the actual property, right? If he actually, let's say he finds this 20-year-old attractive woman, and he's like, hey, he's courting her like, well, my good friend here he owns Victoria's Secrets. Like, I can put you in that catalog. That's got to be. I'm not a 20-year-old woman, but I would say that there's got to be a temptation there.
I feel like inside of you there may be a 20.
But it would be like, I think it was like a slow process. Like he wouldn't like start with like the whole like crazy. Like he was very charismatic. Like he would like build a foundation of trust. Like he had Ghislaine Maxwell that was also like very like glamorous.
But why would
sort
you
of
be
like
doing this though?
So there's a lot.
That's
like,
a good question.
I think she's guilty of a lot of stuff. I think also came from like her father was a very like domineering figure and like had his own crazy ties to like bribery.
You could say theoretically that her father and Epstein are very similar characters.
Yeah. So, and they knew each other too. Like Epstein.
So imagine a daughter marrying a guy who kind of like represents her father. I guess.
Yeah.
There seems to be also another tie-in here would be apparently during her upbringing, there's kind of like a bizarre relationship between her and the father. Like the father's kind of an odd duck.
Oh boy.
He's kind of a narcissistic fella, and
very
there don't seem to be
domineering.
typical boundaries between father and daughter. Let's say.
And she was one of many kids, and it was a lot of like vying for like the father's attention. He was kind of like, she was like the favorite, sort of like he gave her jobs. Like I think he put her in charge of like owning like a soccer football team. Like it was very like he named his yacht after her. Like
he also seemed to be okay with using her as a tool to get leverage or to get power over people.
That's true.
So
she would go in and charm people like
he was perfectly fine with that.
Yeah. And Epstein did the same thing.
And when he died, he left her nothing, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Jesus, really?
So he left all his money to the sons.
Yes.
He was kind of like the boys should have all the money and her nothing.
Now, when was this?
Even though she's like the most capable of the family, apparently.
This is what, maybe late 80s, early 90s?
When he died?
I can't remember.
I forget.
All right, so this is how all this went down. Basically, he was
Like notes.
So it starts to make a little bit of sense. Now he also, so you have like Epstein has these connections to intelligence, right? And high finance. And so does her father. Her father has probably more intelligent, theoretically. More,
Historical, like
yeah.
tons.
Someone sued him, I think. No, he sued one of the papers in England who claimed that he was a Mossad agent. They
Yeah.
put that in a publication, and he sued them for libel. And
But he
and
also
he ended up losing the case.
he also
Which is pretty
misappropriated like a bunch of people's pension funds.
He stole
Remember
his
that?
workers'
He stole
funds,
his
yeah.
workers'
you got to pay
pension
attention
funds.
where your money is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just a little sidebar though. If you were going to be
that was
like
dirty. Yeah.
of all the secret
Mhm.
agents, right? Don't you think Mossad is the coolest one? Like if you were like, I'm CIA,
Highly ranked badge.
MI, what is it?
Is that MI6?
MI6.
Or, I mean, the KGB's gone, like whatever.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, they call him something else now, but like I don't know what they call him now. But
There has to be a global
Putin's inner circle?
Yeah.
well, yeah, but like
Don't they have like the global like for hire
Interpol,
ones now though
like
that are
this.
like Black Cube or
No,
whatever?
there's a different acronym, I think, for the KGB. They have
yeah, they got a different one. But like if of all the ones, like if you would be like, if you could pick one, to be like, all right, I'm gonna be the coolest one. Mossad's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You listen.
On Covert Affairs, that show that was a really cool show. Not a lot of people watched it, but I loved it. But like the Mossad agent was the coolest one.
I mean, you got to think about Israel. Like those folks over there.
Yeah.
Everybody hates. They're like everybody around. All their neighbors hate them.
But everyone wants their like land and stuff.
Well, yeah,
The
just keep-
conflict is
you don't f with them. If you ever wanted to, like, if you ever wanted to be like, listen, we got to take care of some stuff. You call the Israelis. Those guys,
Yeah.
like,
well, they've had a lot of history of like interactions with other countries. So like the ties that they have are probably like
you don't mess
insane.
with people that walk in the desert for 40 years. You know what I'm saying? If you can walk in the desert for 40 years just to find a couple of banged up stones with a bunch of rules, don't mess with those people.
Is that the story? Is that the
And that's only one chapter in the book, badge.
yeah,
right, that's chapter. That's
the old.
not even chapter
That's the
one.
old. Yeah.
Not even chapter.
I'm just saying, Mossad is probably like those guys are like that. Not crazy, like those guys. You don't mess with them. Like that's the coolest one of all. Anyways, sidebar.
Sidebar.
All right,
Yeah.
so
So while we're on the Middle East,
no, let's go.
hang on.
All right.
Epstein,
Oh,
one
Jesus.
of Epstein's clients is Adnan Kashagi. Do you
That's
know who that
right.
is?
That's right.
Batch?
No, I don't.
No? Okay. So
Oh, oops, sorry.
if I'm not mistaken, Khashoggi, so he ends up doing a lot of business with the Saudi royal family, right? So
Oh,
I think he started.
Can any bad thing ever happen without the side?
Well, Khashoggi ends up being like an international. He's probably like the top arms dealer in the world.
Do you know who deflated Tom Brady's balls? It was the Saudi
Dorito
family.
D.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so
Better than football.
Khashoggi.
I'm sorry.
I know.
So Khashoggi ends up being one of. He's working with Epstein as well.
I think
now,
he's transitioning into people like that.
Khashoggi's into everything,
He
right?
definitely is.
So whatever
Wait, hold on a
Go
second.
ahead.
Can you say that again?
That I think, like, mark my words, like you heard it here first. I think Tom Brady is,
The next Jenner?
yeah,
No way.
yeah.
I'm going to go 50-50 on that. I
mark-
agree with you that.
Mark my words. Why else would he be dating a super young, like,
She's a beard.
she's, yes. Why do you think, I love Leonardo DiCaprio, but why do you think Leonardo DiCaprio is dating a 19-year-old now? Like, he's that's big. And you know what else? They share Giselle as ex-girlfriends, ex-wives.
Oh, that could be another show.
I'm telling you. He's got a lot of plastic surgery. Like, I'm telling you.
That's an interesting theory.
It's true. It's good. Mark my words. Mark my words.
I don't agree with any of this.
I think I do.
No.
And you know what I think would be the sickest burn? You know what I think would be the sickest burn? He has like a 10-year contract with Fox as a sports person. So imagine over the years if he turned into like
You think
Tina Brady.
You think Tom Brady's gonna go Bruce Jenner to
Tina.
Caitlyn Jenner?
I think he's gonna be Tina.
Come on.
Tina.
Then he can go dominate
The plastic
women's lingerie
surgery.
football
The
league.
plastic surgery.
No.
I mean, I could be
think
wrong.
not.
I could be wrong.
I
It's
don't
like
know.
I could be
DiCaprio. You
wrong.
think the same thing about DiCaprio?
I don't
I don't think. No, I think DiCaprio has like. There's like rumors that he has like a long time.
He's just effed up. He's a weirdo.
A long time like life partner that is a man.
which is fine. Why doesn't he just be?
which is totally fine.
I still watch
Totally
movies.
fine.
I
I think
don't care.
I think he's the best. Or I don't know. Maybe he also
I'm not
look. I
buying
don't
it.
know.
All right, so back to the topic at hand.
You know who would know? Epstein would know. They know everything.
No. So who does Kashagi do business with?
Who?
He's an international arms dealer, the BCCI. Right? It's
Uh-huh.
all tied in, right? So who's involved in Iran Contra? Adnan Kashagi, right? You know, when you're the top dog as far as arms dealing is globally, you know, he was famous for like let's say two portions of an African country are fighting each other over diamonds or something bad. You know what I mean? He's the one who's arming the government to fend off the rebels, and then he's selling AKs to the rebels to attack the government. So he's getting paid on both ends all day long, right? So that's kind of like his business model, right?
So, all right. Now this all makes sense to me because I think we all know pretty much kind of like the setup, I think, is what's most interesting. We all know what happens. Same when you recruits a bunch of women, powerful people flying in and out.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of denial. Like you look at the list, it's both sides of the aisle. It's not just Republicans and Democrats. It's entertainment figures. It's business people. It's all the people that
It's the people that control society pretty much.
Kashagi's the yacht guy with all the ladies and getting business done that way.
Yeah, and then
if you want to exert power, you get dirt on these people.
Then all of a sudden, what happens? Right, this guy ends up getting arrested. Eventually,
because he gets caught. He gets caught doing bad things. I mean, what do you do when you have so much power that you don't even you think you can do things that are really against societal norms and
But see, this is where he was wrong because he didn't really have. He was the gopher for the powerful.
I don't think so.
He had the dirt on them.
He was probably the gopher for intelligence, right?
Right, but when you're
and his connections to powerful people help, facilitated that, right?
Yeah, but when you're the gopher, you don't really have any power because somebody you.
His end goal, I think, was power.
Your power is in acquiring new leverage over people. He had let's say he's got a specific skill set, right? He's basically going to honey trap you, right?
Yeah.
Like if we look at Prince, what's his name? Prince Andrew, right? And any questions? He got honey trapped?
No, of course he got honey trapped.
He got honey trapped big time.
Although
right?
they say that picture is really not a real picture. They say
so I've been I think someone just wrote an article about this a week or two ago in England.
I think it could have been doctored.
Really highly questioning whether Prince Andrew just got kind of railroaded.
I think he did. I think he did because they even track the flight of where it got developed. They tracked it couldn't have been in Tampa at this time or whatever it was, but
he always claimed he was with his wife, right? Oh no, at his daughter's birthday or something.
So
do I think he did some shady stuff? Yes, but I don't know if that picture.
So we could talk for hours about all of this.
Yeah,
because I think I'll tell you this. First of all, thank you because I've never really quite understood how. I understand what happens after, right?
Yeah.
A bunch of people thought we all know why he got killed or
right.
whatever, and we all know why Giselle got to live. I mean, Giselle.
But what is the real injustice? What is the real injustice here? Is that
the real
Ghislaine
injustice that a
Maxwell's
bunch
in
of
jail?
women were victimized.
Right, but Ghislaine, but you can't have a crime with all of these victims and the only person that was victimizing these women was Epstein. No, he had a lot of customers.
That's why I said he was the what did I call it before? The
patsy?
No, the patsy, the gopher.
Oh, the gopher, yeah.
Look at my Italian hand gets in the way when I do this. I can't do that anymore. But he wasn't really in charge. He was just a gopher. So let me ask you.
Well, he himself was getting his needs met.
So So this is what I wanted to ask you too. If we could just flip the lights on for a second. I'm going to switch to camera 5. So this is the theory that I have. Back in the past, right? In the last 10 years or so.
It's
you had the church sex scandal, right?
Yeah.
So then in the present, you have, that's Epstein, by the way, hanging on a thing, right? So you had...
You forgot the guy behind Epstein breaking his neck.
Well, yeah, I left that...
Oh my God, that's right, because they did autopsy stuff, and you know what, the Tucker Carlson report that I was showing you earlier, he's the one. Say what you want about Tucker Carlson, I know I do, but he's the one that was mainstream media, doing the work and spreading the word about that finding and how messed up that was.
So you have rich, powerful people, right? all in cahoots, kind of doing devious things, having it covered up until it got so big that it couldn't really be hidden anymore. To me, that sounds like a lot like the church abuse scandal. Now, by the way, from what I've read, there were about 4% of priests, not 4%, I forget the percentage, it was like 4,000 or 5,000 instances, which is big, but it's not, I mean, it's big, but it's not, like, it's huge, right? It was a huge
4 or
scandal.
5,000, but that, I mean, that you could extrapolate from that and probably assume that there were more that were not.
Yeah,
you know.
it was big. It brought down a 2,000-year-old institution to the point where they're, selling off all their property and doing this and that. Now you've got this Epstein thing, right? Now, because everybody's been covering up, I think this thing's going to die out. I think you've got one of the biggest
I hope not.
sex scandals in the world, but nobody's going to report on it because everybody's powerful and in charge. So,
and everyone who touches it ends up in a coffin too.
Right, nobody wants a story to come out. Now, I think if you were going to look at this now,
That's a problem. That in itself, I'll let you kind of keep going with your thing, but like to me, that is a huge problem because like this is something that literally everyone can agree on, is that kids should be protected from situations like this. And these people should be brought to justice, not just one guy hanging in a jail cell and one woman in prison where she's,
all right,
whatever.
So we're talking about kids. We're talking about young people.
Yeah,
We're talking about
if we
abuse,
can't-
powerful.
If we can't figure this out and bring people to justice, like what hope is there for anything else? Like that's
So I think that of all these things, the big one is still out there.
okay.
The big one is the school. The school scandal. We can put the lights on.
Okay.
I think I did some research, right? Now,
This is very controversial.
this isn't about Lowell because everybody thinks we had this recent thing where the trainer was accused of doing crap he wasn't supposed to be doing. Now, everybody knows, the kids all knew about it. Administration probably buried it. I'm just making like whatever. But I've been doing some research, like 10%, there was a study. Now, there hasn't been a lot of study on these issues, but there's a high incidence of,
I wonder why.
I know, of people reporting like inappropriate relations between teachers and students. And then a lot of times the people get like passed on, they get like they get moved around. It comes out after they've left the district.
That's crazy.
And I think
How do you move around someone that you know is like
because
being
there's so
stupid?
many, like the legal protections between the union,
Yeah.
there's no incentive to do it. And I think there's a when you think about us, like I can tell you everybody you talk to is going to tell you a story about like a teacher grooming a student or something that happened. There's instances that like, I don't want to focus on Lowell because it's not just a Lowell problem. This is
Yeah,
a
but I
problem.
mean, that's our experience, right? So like we
Yeah.
could say, yeah, we heard about
But we've
weird
been
stuff
talking about
happening.
positions of power,
Yeah.
right? Using their power to exploit young women and then having like a bureaucracy or people in power covering it up so that it doesn't blow back on them. I think it's been happening throughout, and I'm not just public school, like public, private, not just the U.S., but across like, the civilized world. And I think it's one of these things that like just gets swept under the rug. And I think when you talk about the Epstein thing and the church thing, like when do we stop? Like, look at this, like happened in the churches. Now it's happening in politics. What's the next institution where you see like when people have power and it's unchecked, they abuse the weak. And I think it's going to be the schools that blows up next.
Well, I think anytime you have like adults and kids in like a school, there needs to be like a certain level of protection for everyone, right? Like you can't be in like a confined space like that trainer with like no window, like you can't, like you really can't do
It's
that.
not the first time it's happened.
I know, but like it's something that you need a culture of like intolerance of that, not like whispering or like if you need to make people feel comfortable to bring up a situation so that it's going to get dealt with appropriately, because if it doesn't get dealt with appropriately, not a lot of people are going to be motivated to like bring up even if you're not positive that there's a problem, if there's like something feeling weird.
So wait, Mikaela, if you had $120,000 position admin position to fill. Don't you think, like, shouldn't they have like a dean of making sure teachers aren't effing around with students?
Not even that. They should have
Like whatever?
have written policies of like,
They
this is what you
They
do.
have a ridiculous, all right, I don't want to pick on Lowell because this is not a Lowell issue. This is across the,
Oh, I'm sure it's everywhere.
it's everywhere.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
everybody treats it the same. They treat it as a series of isolated incidences where it's this is going to happen. Like, you're going to have, you got 500 teachers and 4,000 students. There's going to be somebody in there that's doing this. You got to, what are we doing to prevent this?
Well, the bigger picture is probably like crime, period. I know you're kind of focusing on sex scandals. Excuse me, I can't talk today. But crime in general, when something happens in a school setting, whether someone robs someone or someone threatens someone,
They're expressing themselves.
you should someone should put together a think tank here and say, hey, how are we going to handle this more appropriately? Because sweeping it under the rug and hoping the kid doesn't do it again. And I know that the schools are going to come at this from the perspective of, we want to cut down on the school to jail pipeline, whatever that terminology is. And if we are suspending kids now, that's going to turn them off of school, and that's going to later result in them going.
Well, I mean,
That's one perspective. Another perspective is, well, you know what? If you let someone steal every other day, you catch them all the time and then don't do anything about it, you're
They're
kind
gonna
of
be shocked.
reinforcing bad behavior.
Yeah. Well-
And that person might go into the real world and think it's okay to steal from people. And
100%.
and you're going to have real problems, whether it's going to be conflict with other individuals, which could turn violent, could turn nasty, or with authorities. And we see that all the time.
but see, I think this is a good place to end, because I think what you're saying is that if you have a power dynamic and you're not keeping that power dynamic in check, whether it's abuse, crime, whatever, and your goal is not, the goal should be to do, like, if you're a priest, your goal should be to help whatever the priest is supposed to do. But like, if you're a politician, you're supposed to do this or that. When people run astray from what they're supposed to be doing and they run unchecked, that's when you create an environment where you can prey on the weak, and that shouldn't be tolerated.
And it's because of fear of like looking bad, right? Like, it's like, what I don't understand is like, how do you, like, with the clear conscience, like as an administration, if you're a school, someone has a problem, you transfer them, they get transferred to another school, and then like start over with the same problem? Like, how?
That's more like with the church scandal, right? Where the school doesn't
same
transfer.
thing.
It's not like Lowell has, this teacher's having an inappropriate relationship with a student, we're going to ship that teacher over to Billerica.
No, but they won't. But I don't think. But there's also rules about like negative reviews, and you don't want to whatever. But like that teacher should have a black marker on.
And then you have a lot of he said, she
Go find
said.
another job.
So it's kind of,
It's all about the he said, she said.
you should probably really think it out. Actually, put some people on it, come up with some like comprehensive policy, whether if there's any accusation, all right, administrative leave for the time being, paid until you have more information, and then.
But let me ask, am I off base though?
Yeah.
Are my connections wrong, or do you see the connection?
No. I think that, think of how many people are in a school, like you have a lot of young adults, you know what I mean? Teaching young adults to whatever middle age. And then you have a lot of the students, some of the students are young adults. We have up till age 20, basically 21. Once they hit 22, they're out, right?
And that's just in the junior highs.
But anyway, so you have a lot of,
lot.
young people, let's say. They're entering that zone of life where they're getting into relationships and all that other stuff. So,
But
you're just gonna have, unfortunately, there will be some sort of situations that are probably not bad.
But don't you think there should be some, like, wouldn't you like to see?
Well, first of all, you should know if you're a teacher, like you don't date your student, right?
Yeah, but we know it's gonna happen. So there's gonna be, I don't know. I just feel like of all the money they spent, I don't want to make it about Lowell. There should be more of a focus on preventing the stuff, and I feel like it's.
Can you tie it into DEI? Because if you can, you're gonna be sure you get all the staff you want.
Well, of all the things that I would.
If you don't hold people accountable for the stuff that they do,
You can say
you're gonna
shit. Say shit.
you're gonna have rampant problems,
Yeah.
and like you're gonna have a culture of like hiding things and people getting away with stuff, and we've seen it, like it.
Yeah. Well, and I think the Epstein story shows how this all happens. And I think that was probably one of the most comprehensive
No, the Epstein story is so much different.
We don't. Yeah.
That's the height of corruption and political power.
Right, but you see how
It really
all these
is.
things,
No,
everyone's
I
acting
get
in
how,
their self-interest, it all comes together.
how it's all facilitated from a low level. I get that too.
It's one of the most amazing stories that's completely underreported.
Yeah.
Not only is it underreported, it's understood. Is that even a word?
But we are seeing the rise of independent journalism because of stuff like this. Because of yeah.
Independent journalism is just on the.
Well,
It's like an avalanche headed downhill to nowhere.
I'll tell you what. There's a lot of good independent
of citizen
Well,
journalism,
on the left.
people, everyday people being
Well, you need an
journalists.
emergence of that.
Yeah, so you have
I'll tell you
your Substack. So mainstream media is not covering this, and that's why you have all this other
I will give
other
you
media outlets.
gratuitous plug. Like if you read even locally here on Inside Lowell, Ryan Gilday's articles
Oh, God, so
of the
good.
city council, not only are they entertaining to read, but they're biting and they're fair and they're
He's great.
he's really good. And I haven't seen that kind of reporting since
Factual and just being.
I think probably back when Jen Myers and then the lawyer kid, I forget his name. I don't know, back in the early mid 2000s, reporting on things. I haven't seen journalism this good, right? And that's from an independent media outlet like we are. Well, we're not. I guess it's us, right? Whatever we are, but it's. I think it's on the rise, So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't. Thank you guys for explaining this to me.
Yeah.
Wait, there's still more.
There's still more, but let's.
Chapter 1 of the.
I know.
Chapter 1, we can just go on and on.
We didn't even get out of the 80s.
I know.
It's
I know.
fucking crazy though.
It is.
But I think it is part of a larger systemic problem. So, thank you guys, and we gotta get Ethan back.
Yeah.
We gotta get. I'd love to have him on with Mikaela talking about this too. That'd be crazy.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we'll set it all up, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This
All
was
right. Till
fun.
next time.
All right. Till the next Power Hour. Enjoy this too warm winter.